The heat in Lagos was heavy that Tuesday, the kind of afternoon where the humidity sticks to your skin like a second thought. I was in our Lekki kitchen, the marble countertops cool under my palms, when the front door groaned open. Femi was home early from the office. Standing beside him was a man who looked like he had been carved out of dark mahogany and polished to a shine. He had a presence that filled the room instantly, making the air feel thick and hard to breathe. "Kemi, meet Chidi," Femi said, his voice carrying a strange, nervous energy I couldn't quite place. "He's an old friend from my days in Enugu. He's staying in the guest wing for a few weeks while his apartment is being renovated." Chidi was breathtaking. He had a ruggedness that Femi lacked, a piercing gaze that seemed to look right through my clothes. When he took my hand to greet me, his grip was firm, and a bolt of electricity shot up my arm. For 3 years, Femi had been distant, his touches clinical and brief. Seeing Chidi felt like looking at a cold glass of water after a long trek through the desert. I felt a blush creep up my neck, something I hadn't felt since I was a schoolgirl. "It's a pleasure, Kemi," Chidi said. His voice was a deep, honeyed baritone that made the hair on my arm stand up. Femi didn't tell me his wife was the most beautiful woman in Lagos. Femi laughed, but it sounded forced, like a cracked record. "Behave yourself, Chidi," he said, patting Chidi's shoulder with a lingering hand. I felt a pang of something I thought was jealousy, but not for Femi. I found myself wanting Chidi to look at me that way again. I wanted that fire. As the days passed, the house transformed. The silence was replaced by Chidi's laughter and the sound of music playing from the guest wing. Chidi and I began to share moments, lingering touches in the kitchen when Femi was in the shower, deep conversations over chilled wine on the patio while the sun set. He told me I was wasted on a man who didn't appreciate me. He told me I deserved to be worshipped. I felt alive for the first time since my wedding day. I was falling in love with my husband's best friend, blinded by the attention I had starved for. I never realized that every accidental or brush of his hand was a calculated move. I was walking into a fire, thinking it was a sunset, completely unaware that Femi and Chidi were watching me from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The days that followed felt like a dream I never wanted to wake up from. In the middle of the Lagos hustle, our house in Lekki became my sanctuary because Chidi was in it. Femi was busier than ever, leaving early for meetings and returning late, which gave me and Chidi hours of stolen time. We would sit in the parlor, the AC humming a low tune, and he would tell me about his travels. He spoke of the world in a way that made my life with Femi feel small and grey. Chidi didn't just talk to me, he listened. He made me feel like the center of the universe. One evening, while Femi was away at a dinner party, Chidi came into the kitchen while I was making tea. The lighting was dim, and the smell of his cologne filled the space, making my head swim. He stepped close, so close I could feel the heat radiating from his chest. He reached out and tucked a stray lock of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering on my skin. "Kemi," he whispered, his voice vibrating in the quiet room. "If you were mine, you would never have to wonder if you are enough. I would spend every day reminding you." My heart hammered against my ribs. I knew it was wrong. I knew he was Femi's friend. But the loneliness of the last 3 years had left a hole in my soul that only Chidi seemed able to fill. I leaned into his touch, closing my eyes. For the first time in my marriage, I felt a spark of real, raw passion. I was convinced that Chidi was my soulmate, the man who had come to rescue me from a cold, loveless contract. I started imagining a life with him, a life where I wasn't just a trophy on Femi's arm, but a woman who was truly seen and desired. But as the week went on, small things started to feel off. I would catch Chidi looking at his phone and smirking, but he would quickly hide the screen when I walked in. I found a camera lens hidden behind a photo frame in the parlor, pointed directly at the sofa where we usually sat. When I asked Femi about it, he laughed it off, saying it was for security because of the recent robberies in the neighborhood. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe Chidi. I was so desperate for the love Chidi was giving me that I ignored the cold feeling growing in the pit of my stomach. I didn't see the trap closing around me. I didn't know that my romance was being recorded, scripted, and choreographed by the two men I trusted most in the world. I was falling deeper in love, while they were counting down the minutes until my life would fall apart. The betrayal didn't come with a shout, it came with a quiet buzz from a device left on the dining table. Femi had rushed out for an emergency meeting, leaving his iPad behind. Usually, I wouldn't dare touch it, but a message popped up on the lock screen that made my heart skip a beat. It was from Chidi. It said, "She's completely hooked. I'll have the final footage by tonight. Is the lawyer ready?" My breath hitched. My hands shook as I swiped the screen. It wasn't locked. I opened the messaging app, and what I saw shattered my world into 1,000 jagged pieces. There were hundreds of messages between my husband and the man I thought I loved. They weren't just friends. They were lovers. They had been together for years, long before Femi ever met me. Femi hadn't married me for love, he had married me to satisfy his traditional parents and to keep his high-ranking job in a society that wouldn't accept who he truly was. I was nothing more than a beard, a human shield to hide his secret. But the most heart-wrenching part was Chidi's role. Femi had paid him to seduce me. In the messages, they laughed about how easy I was to trick because I was so starved for affection. Femi wrote, "I need the video of her in bed with you, Chidi. Once I have proof of her infidelity, the divorce will be easy. I won't have to pay her a kobo, and I get full custody of the kids to keep the family name clean. She'll be the one in shame, not me." Chidi's reply was even worse, "Don't worry, my love. She thinks I'm her soulmate. I'll make sure the video is crystal clear. I can't wait for us to finally have this house to ourselves without her lurking around." I collapsed onto the floor, the cold marble pressing against my skin. The man I had opened my heart to was a predator hired by my own husband. Every touch, every "I love you," every secret look from Chidi had been a performance for a hidden camera. They were planning to throw me out onto the streets of Lagos with nothing, branding me an unfaithful wife while they lived happily in the home I had helped build. Just then, I heard Chidi's footsteps coming from the guest wing. He walked into the kitchen, a charming, fake smile on his face. "Kemi, darling, why are you on the floor? Are you okay?" He reached out to touch my shoulder, the same hand that had written those vile messages. I looked up at him, and for the first time, I didn't see a lover. I saw a monster. I realized that my love had been a weapon used against me. The tragedy wasn't just that my husband was gay, it was that I had lost myself to a lie that was designed to destroy me. I looked at Chidi's hand as it reached for me. It was the same hand that had held mine under the moonlight, the same hand that had promised me a future, and the same hand that was currently digitizing my ruin. I wanted to scream, to scratch his eyes out, but a cold, heavy stone had settled in my chest. If I reacted now, I would lose everything. I had to play the part for just a little longer. "I'm just dizzy, Chidi," I whispered, forcing a weak smile as I stood up. The Lagos heat is finally getting to me. He gave me that look, the one I used to think was full of soul, but now I realized was just the practiced gaze of an actor. Go and rest, Kemi. Tonight, I have a special surprise for you. Femi is staying at a hotel for his conference, so it's just us. My stomach turned. I knew what the surprise was. It was the final act of their play. He wanted to get me into bed to record the footage that would end my life as I knew it. I nodded and retreated to the master bedroom, locking the door behind me. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the walls. Every beautiful thing in this room felt like a lie. The expensive curtains, the designer rugs, the wedding photos on the wall, it was all a stage set for my execution. I spent the next few hours in a trance. I realized I couldn't just run. If I ran, Femi would still have his reputation, his money, and his power. He would hunt me down. I had to strike back. I used my phone to record a video of the messages on Femi's iPad. I scrolled through every plan, every insult, and every photo of Femi and Chidi together. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by hot pliers. The man I had shared a bed with for 3 years had never seen me as a human being. I was just a barrier between him and the world's judgment. As night fell, the house became unnervingly quiet. Chidi knocked on my door around 9 p.m. His voice was a low, seductive purr. Kemi, are you awake? I opened the door. I had dressed in the silk nightgown Femi had bought me, the one he never touched me in. I saw the flash of greed in Chidi's eyes. He wasn't just doing this for Femi, he enjoyed the power of breaking me. He led me to the parlor, where he had set up candles and opened a bottle of wine. I knew the cameras were watching. I knew that every move I made was being streamed to a private server. To us, Chidi said, raising his glass. I looked at him, my heart breaking for the woman I was yesterday, the woman who believed in him. To us, I repeated. I drank the wine, but it tasted like ash. As he leaned in to kiss me, my eyes filled with tears. He thought they were tears of passion. He didn't know they were tears of mourning for a life that was already dead. I let him lead me toward the guest wing, every step feeling like a walk toward the gallows. I was going to give them their video, but I was going to make sure the ending was something they never expected.